I'll be making a video with the entire European elections results later on, but first I want to focus on Germany. And the reason I want to focus on Germany is because I think there's very few English YouTube channels that do this. And it's very important to know their politics, especially since they managed to have such a strong influence within the European Union. And the Germans are fascinating people. Individually, I can't name a single one that I don't like. I play video games with a couple of them, I speak online with a lot of them, and I can't name a single guy that really annoys me. But when they all get together and start voting, it's like walking into a church and you go like, Jesus fucking Christ. How could you vote for that? So let's look at the main parties and how they ranked into the last European election. The first one is the CDU, the Christian Democrats. And when you look at the name, there's nothing Christian about them. You can say there's something a little bit democratic about them because at least you go to vote for them. But the problem is that these people have been in power for so long that they are taking power for granted. This is the party of Angela Merkel. And here's a fun fact. Do you know who the president of Germany is if you're not from Germany? You probably don't know. I didn't know either before I made this video. And the reason you didn't know is that it doesn't really matter. After they had their little accident with the Führer, and they almost conquered the entire Europe, they decided that the position of president should be stripped of as many powers as possible. And they gave all those powers to their chancellor. And the problem is that while their president can't be elected for an infinite number of times, the chancellor can. So this is why Angela Merkel has had 4 terms into office. And now it's still the same party that's going to elect someone else. It's still the CDU that's probably going to put someone else. So it's literally the same party that has been in charge for so long. And this is not healthy for a democracy. People look at Putin and they say, well, Putin has been in charge for so long, he's a dictator. You know, it's just that in name only he is president. In reality, he's the dictator of Mother Russia. And you can point the same to Germany. And it's like, well, you gave so many powers to the chancellor. How is it not compatible? How is it exactly different? This is also the party of Alex Voss, the guy who made Article 13 and Article 11. So you kind of get how they feel about free speech issues and how they feel about the little guy. No, they're all about the corporations. They're all about big businesses. And they don't mind using authoritarianism if it's going to help them in an election, like stifling opposition speech and stuff like that. We're going to get into it at the end of the video. But basically, they're a left-leaning party. All right, they're pro-immigration, they're pro-open borders, and you know all the things that Democrats in America are like. These people are probably the same. Then you have the Social Democrats. So if the Christian Democrats are considered to be the conservatives, and I don't really understand what they're conserving at this point, the Social Democrats is what goes left-leaning for Germany. They are full-blown communists, like, and I'm not kidding. Like, they are talking about expropriating houses. They're talking about expropriating private property. All right, so that's within the actual German legal system. Like, what I find fascinating with Germany is that it's a country that managed to experience 2 horrible ideologies of our time. It experienced Nazism and it experienced communism. And it seems that they only understand that Nazism is bad, but they didn't get the memo about communism. So now you have parties like the Social Democrats, which talk about expropriating houses. They talk about using the power of the state to take away the private property of people within Germany. It is absolutely insane, and yet people vote for them. Don't ask me why. I can't understand it. I can't grasp my mind around it. But it seems that these people, and many of them have lived through communism, by the way, they probably looked at the oppressive system of communist Germany and they thought, you know what? That's a bad system, but if I were in charge, I would probably like it because I wouldn't be the one being oppressed. I would oppress other people. So yeah, like in Germany, there's a lot of crackdowns on things you can say. Like, it's not a country where you can have free speech. And there have been cases where people who had private groups on Facebook talking against immigration had the police break into their houses and confiscating their computers. All right, that actually happened in Germany. So no, it's not a country where you can have free speech. But from what I noticed is that if you go too far to the right, and you don't even have to go that far, eventually the law is going to crack down on you, and there's going to be things that you're not allowed to say. But on the other hand, you can go as far to the left as you want. Like, there is no limit. The sky, the world is your oyster. You can just go as left as humanly possible. You can take a race car and go right past Stalin, go meow over Lenin, and they don't care. Like, I don't think that there is any limit to how left you can go into Germany right now. And, that's what I find concerning. My country has also been through Nazism, has been through communism, and they outlaw both of these ideologies in the constitution. You're not allowed to be a Nazi, you're not allowed to be a communist. In Germany, it's only one-sided, which means that the other side could just go absolutely crazy. And we're talking about one ideology that kills people based on ethnicity and one ideology that kills people based on class. But, whatever. And then we have the Greens. Now, I'm going to expand on the Greens when I talk about my European Union video, so feel free to check that out. They have won a major victory within the European Union. It's actually called the Green Wave. Think of an army of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes and with a lot of Green New Deals. And that's the Greens. And anything that doesn't concern the environment, like if there's a policy that somehow doesn't affect the environment, they will borrow from the left. Like they will say, well, okay, what do the Social Democrats think about this policy that doesn't affect the environment? And that's the policy that they're going to do. For example, on immigration, they're absolute xenophilic. Like the CDU, for example, right? The CDU, when they want massive immigration, they look at it from the business sense of view. They go and they say, okay, so Germany's demographics are going down. We're going to get a lot more immigrants in here. And they're also going to be like cheap labor. So our bodies in the multinational sector are going to give us a lot of cash in return. And if you think about it from the way of slavery, like it's really not profitable to have slaves. If you take away the moral conundrum, you're like, you know what, like anything goes. Let's see how we can do this as profitable as possible. Like having slaves means you have to feed them, you have to have guards, you have to worry about slave revolts and stuff like that. But if you have like mass immigration and you have people coming in that are going to benefit from the social securities that your taxpayer give, and they can work for really cheaply, then problem solved. That's a lot more cost efficient. And it doesn't matter the nations you're screwing over. Like Romania, for example, lost over 4 million people to the European Union. They don't care about the nations that they destroy by taking away their capital, their manpower. No, that's fine. Right, but what I'm trying to get with this, right, because I'm going on a rant, the CDU is just focusing on the economic aspect. They're really concerned about making money and about being able to maintain the social system. Meanwhile, you have the Greens, which are just xenophilic, like they just want immigrants. How many? Doesn't matter, all of them. What do you mean all of them? All of them. Every single one needs to come to Germany, right? Like imagine living in a mansion, and the owner of the mansion goes like, you know what? Other people should benefit from this luxury that we've created. And they start inviting homeless people in. It's like, okay, but how many? Doesn't matter, all of them. Every single homeless person, right? You're not going to have a luxurious mansion after you invite 1,000 of them. And that's the Greens. They just want as many refugees as possible, no limit. Even talking about a limit means you're a Nazi. Oh, and as a bonus, they used to support pedophilia. Now, it's not an accusation. No, they apologize for it. So as you can see here, at a news conference of November the 12th, one of the current heads of the Green Party, Simone Peter, told reporters that she is deeply sorry for her party's past stance and apologized once again to all victims of sexual abuse that might feel trivialized. The scandal has prompted widespread debate in the German media, both about the culpability of the Greens and the country's treatment of pedophiles. Over the last few years, Germany has acquired a well-deserving reputation for open-mindedness. Well, who can blame them? When it comes to sex, now the Greens' revelation has spurred the crisis into the German left and shown that the country's sexual tolerance comes with a historical baggage of its own. I'm not making this up. This is newsworthy. This is in Germany. They have a lot of influence over the European Union. This party has scored a lot of votes. Alternative for Germany. I think a lot of people already know about the Alternative for Germany. These, I would call them like center left. Yeah, like if you get them to do the political compass test, I guarantee to you they score center left. But when you look at the overwhelming picture and you see far left, extreme far left, also extreme far left, you know, for them, a center left party looks as extreme right. Like, I keep seeing the press calling them far right, extreme right. Like, no, they're not. All right? Like, an extreme right-wing party would be, depending on the definition you use, right? So if you want to go with the Nazis are extreme right, like, it would be someone that says, you know, Germany over everyone, and they would, like, talk about the German people as a strong unit and nothing outside the state, everything within the state. They're not that, all right? So they don't do that. And the other one, the far-right American way of thinking, where they would be like extreme capitalists, and they would go and say that we need to abolish public healthcare, we need to abolish public schooling, and everyone is going to get 50% more wages because now you don't have to pay taxes to the government and it's your decision what you do with that money, right? Like, we're going to give a lot of money to people. Yeah, they're not like that either. No, they're center left, all right? And the reason they're called extreme right, again, is because of how far to the left the other parties have managed to go to. So now let's go to the far left party. And at this point, if you're an American, your mind is blown and you're like, well, V, hold on a little bit. You went to the Social Democrats that want to expropriate people's houses, okay? In my opinion, that's extreme left. Now, how much to the left can you go? What is there a wall? Will they ever hit a wall in Germany on the political compass and say, you know, this far, no further. This is as leftist as we can go? Well, I think it's not a wall. I think it's like Star Trek. Okay, it's like discovering the new frontier and the left is leading the charge. And yes, this is how the party is actually called, the left. They are the far left of Germany. This is what I would guess you'd call the Antifa party. They actually collaborate with Antifa, an organization that's a terrorist organization in the United States. This government will collaborate with. They have issued happy birthday to Fidel Castro on his name day. And they also have like these types of posters. You know, let's be real. Let's do the impossible. These are the left in Germany. Yes, people vote for them. So I asked a German friend of mine to translate the left's stance on the death of Fidel Castro. Concerning the death of Fidel Castro, the chairman of the faction of the left declares a better world without exploitation of suppression is possible. This was the firm stance of Fidel Castro. Many young people in the 60s have been inspired by the enthusiasm of the Cuban Revolution, especially its conflict with the overpowerful US empire. The Cuban Revolution freed Cuba from the bloody dictatorship under Fulgencio Batista, which killed over 30,000 people. Cuba was previously a place where the mafia would come and go. Large estates, often in the hands of US Americans, exploited the land workers without measures. Blacks were subjected to the system of racism. The people of the countryside never saw a doctor, and 70% of them were illiterate. So what I understand by this is that the left wants to turn Germany into Cuba, and by extension the European Union, because let's be honest, Germany does have a very strong influence within the European Union. And knowing communism and knowing this type of rhetoric from the past, they usually don't contain it to one nation. They usually aren't happy to just make their house shit. No, they want to spread the shit throughout the entire world. So what else we got? Well, we got the Free Democratic Party, which on paper sounds like a classical liberal party. They want economic freedom. In practice, they just tag along to the other parties. Whatever a party looks cross-eyed towards them, they just cuck. And then they do what the other leftist parties want them to do. And one of the things they also did is they gave tax exemptions from hotels because they get a lot of money from hotels. They have a lot of backers that have big businesses in the hotel industry. Then you get the party, which is the party. It's run by a bunch of comedians that are just trying to troll the system. It would be similar, I suppose, to the United Kingdom with Lord Buckethead. I think the comparison might be a little apt. Then you have like the Animal Protection Party, which is pretty much what the name suggests. It's a one-issue party that wants state-enforced veganism. And then you have like the Free Voters, which originally were, as I understand, a bunch of independent candidates, and they don't enforce their party line strictly. They want more environmental regulations, immigration after the Canadian model, and they haven't really made the name for themselves so far. And overall, like you look at the state of Germany, the absolute state of Germany, right? And you suddenly realize why the AfD is called far right. And if you also look at how Antifa in Germany seems to be like the personal army of journalists, like you have a cat lady that's going to write an article, she's going to scribble a disgruntled post about someone and make a hit piece, and then Antifa pops up. Like, just so you can understand, I remember last year or 2 years ago, there was a rape that was incredibly brutal in Germany, to the point where the old police chief, who probably seen a lot in his life, was shocked and aghast. He said that he never saw anything more brutal, right? And a lot of women decided to go on the street and protest against it. And I believe it was called the 130 decibel movement. Like, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly. But they basically had the movement, protesting, like women protesting about rape. Imagine that, astonishing, right? And they were met by Antifa, which started throwing piss bottles and pieces of feces towards the women and stuff like that. And eventually the women's march dispersed, and the police on the Twitter congratulated Antifa for their civic duty. That is Germany, okay? Like that's what we're talking about. Like people keep looking at China towards communism. No, I think it's going to come from Western Europe. I definitely think that this level of authoritarianism and this level of censorship is going to happen from the European Union, which is heavily influenced by German politics. With that said, let me know what you think. If you're a German, I'm really interested in your opinion. Please let me know if I got anything wrong. It's kind of difficult to break into German politics because the language barrier. But I would say that, yeah, I should start learning German in order to be able to translate their articles. But the problem is, I'll probably get shot down because they have such strong activists over there that they immediately start reporting for any type of hate speech and stuff. And the way I noticed, right, because that's how really it works. You have journalists collaborating with Antifa, and they're asking for violence. Like they're legitimately asking and encouraging people to be violent and do political violence in their name. I believe Tim Pool actually covered it. He made a video about the network with journalists working with Antifa. And whenever you report them, nothing happens. Like, they can say some of the worst stuff ever. There was this Twitter account called Verified Hate. And what it did is we'll get, like, blue check marks that say, hate, like, blatant hate speech, blatant things that are obvious that they go against the community guidelines. And they would have, like, a compilation with them. And everyone could see them. It was out in the open. No one got banned. Do you know who got banned? The Twitter account that was doing the compilation. Because what they do is that they will go even years in your social media history. They would go for years in the past. And the moment they find a joke that is unsavory, the moment you said something that you obviously didn't mean it, they will point to that and then you get banned. And it's just astonishing, right? Because you think about it and you're like, well, when you say a joke, you really don't mean that. Like, you don't want to do it. But when they say things, they mean it. Like, they want to do it. They want to influence change on the world based on the things they say. So yeah, I mean, again, you have parties that glorify Cuba and people vote for them. Like, what more can you ask? And this is a country that has been through communism. Well, at least half of it has been, the other half hasn't, I guess. And the people who are advocating for this, they're in power. Like, you need to understand, communism and socialism is an amazing system if you're the one that's in the inner party, if you're the guy in charge.